So I have been using the new M1 12.9-inch iPad Pro as my main device and tablet for the past 2 weeks. So other than being an extremely powerful tablet with a stunning display, what else is truly amazing about this tablet? Hey guys, Adam Lobo here from Adam Lobo TV, and in this video, I will be giving you my full in-depth review of the new M1 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and stay till the end of this video as I'll answer all of your questions that you've asked me in my first impressions video, so keep watching. Now since I've done the unboxing in my first impressions video, let's dive into the build quality. Now the build quality is hands down the best that is out right now, where it was as premium as you can expect out of a tablet within this caliber. Now the sides are very similar to the iPhone, where it had a box-shaped design which I liked. Because call me crazy, but I'd rather have something a bit more solid and slightly on a thicker form factor compared to a tablet which is super thin and more prone to slipping off my hands, which most tablets usually are. Now, as I mentioned in my first impressions video, because of its bigger screen size and also the solid weight to the tablet, it is not a tablet that you should hold with just one hand, although it looks like it's super light for me to hold in one hand. So carrying it with a tablet sleeve or a magic keyboard would be the only time that I would recommend using a single hand to ensure that you get a sort of grip and protection of the tablet. So overall, I would give a huge A+ for the build when I was using the tablet every single day. Alright, next let's look at the tablet screen. Now the tablet that I have is the largest 12.9-inch Liquid Retina XDR Pro Motion display, where it had 120Hz refresh rate with a high resolution of 2732 by 2048 pixels. Now this is the very first tablet or screen from Apple which uses the Mini LED display, which has an extremely high 1:1 contrast ratio. So this Mini LED display technology is currently the most advanced LED display, because to put it in a simple way of explaining, instead of using several hundred backlight LEDs at the back of the screen, it has over 1,000 mini LEDs, making viewing content on the tablet the best that I've seen on any tablet out right now. And this makes it a bad or a good thing. Why? Because I can say bye-bye to me being productive. Now this is because I just can't stop watching videos and binging on Netflix on the tablet, as the color reproduction is really true to life. And the tablet also supports Dolby Vision in Netflix, where you can even see the Dolby Vision logo when watching videos. And speaking of watching videos or movies on Netflix, the audio streams at HD quality, which is extra sweet, and don't worry, I will be doing a sound test later on in this video. And what's nice is the tablet goes up to 1000 nits, which is super bright, even using this tablet outdoors alone. And playback for HDR content can go up to a massive 1600 nits of brightness. Now, I'm not the kind of person who uses HDR during my day-to-day usage, especially when it comes to editing or even really streaming on HDR. But my buddy ZY from ZY Productions just did a video dedicated to HDR, and I'm gonna have a quick video call with him to talk more about that.
Hello, brother. How are you?
I'm very good, man. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to take too much of your time. I saw your recent video about HDR, kind of explaining it in a very layman term, and I absolutely love it. So I want you to do the same for people who's watching this particular video.
Okay, HDR in a nutshell. So here's the thing about HDR. Sometimes in a video, there are things in a frame that should look super bright, like the sun, or think a lit light bulb, that should look extremely bright. An HDR display can show those bright bits with a much higher luminance than an SDR display. So the bright pixels actually throw out a higher intensity of light at you, as opposed to looking just about as bright as everything else in the frame, which is the case on an SDR system. So the thing about the Mini LED display on that amazing M1 iPad Pro that you have there, it actually outspecs, if you think about it in certain ways, the Pro Display XDR.
Wow.
So it has a full screen sustained brightness of 1000 nits, and it has a peak brightness of 1600 nits, which is the same as the Pro Display XDR. But remember, our iPad Pros have Pro Motion, which means it actually has a refresh rate up to 120 Hz. The Pro Display XDR does up to 60 if I'm not mistaken, and the biggest thing that I think blows it out of the water is because mini LEDs, they use local dimming. They're not like OLED, it's not like every single pixel has its own mind. It works based on groups of pixels. The Pro Display XDR has 576 local dimming zones, and it's one big 32-inch display. Our little 12.9-inch iPad Pro has 2,596 local dimming zones, which is way more than most high-end professional HDR monitors that I think if you compare like the most expensive 2TB iPad Pro to one of those displays, it will make the iPad Pro look really cheap if you compare the prices of those displays that have less local dimming zones.
That's fantastic. I love how everything you put it in proper explanation. Thank you so much, ZY.
Thank you, brother. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.
So while the majority of people do not use the rear cameras on a tablet, more on the front camera, but let's look at the specs. So the iPad Pro comes with two cameras at the back and also the LiDAR sensor, where the main lens is a 12 megapixel f1.8 aperture lens and the other is a 10 megapixel f2.4 125-degree ultra-wide angle lens. And yes, if you really come to a situation where you need to take some photos on the tablet, it will perform great, definitely, and surely giving you high quality results as how that the iPhone is. Then the ultra-wide camera is surely also the best that I've seen on any tablet out right now. Then the LiDAR sensor though has lots of great importance for augmented reality and depth scanning as well, and there's lots of cool things that you can do within the Clips app. Okay, so now that we know that, let's look at the front camera specs, as it comes with a 12 megapixel f2.4, and with this ultra-wide angle camera there's a cool feature called Center Stage, which I've tested lots of times during my video calls and I found it extremely useful as well. Where in case you guys did not know, it is a feature where the camera sees that you're moving around and it will maintain the direction according to where you move, and it also has facial recognition as well. And this would be great for situations where you're doing video calls and kind of moving about rather than just sitting on the same place. And since the upcoming iOS 15 and iPad OS 15 will come with a feature of creating video call links on FaceTime for non-iOS and also Mac users, FaceTime will surely be my primary video calling software moving forward. Next, let's talk about the speakers on the iPad Pro. So the tablet comes with a total of 4 stereo speakers, where the overall speakers did sound very loud with absolutely no distortion at maximum volume. Now, not only the audio separation was exceptional, but the bass was extremely well pronounced and the mids and highs had great balance for vocals when watching movies, playing songs or even playing game. And here is a quick sound test. Next, let's talk about the iPad OS, especially for a first-time user. So based on me using the tablet daily with the current iOS 14.6, I found that the overall usage for the tablet was just smooth sailing, without a single glitch on the software. And for someone who have been using the Mac OS for almost 2 decades, this iPad OS is just like a hybrid between iOS and also Mac OS, with having tablet-like features like widgets and the Mac OS type features like having a nice dock below, with the recently used or the currently used in the app. Now the split screen feature was also a really nice touch for my overall multitasking as well. And while the new universal control feature will only be coming in iPad OS 15, but I already love the current continuity features on the iPad. For example, opening a browser and also my MacBook Pro at the same time, it will show on the iPad that I'm on that site, which I can just continue from there, which made things very easily, especially when it comes to writing scripts. And speaking of writing scripts, ever since I started using Sidecar, with the iPad being my secondary display, it made my work even 100 times easier, and it has already becoming a feature which I won't be able to live without. And since I'm not a fan of benchmark tests, I did intentionally use intensive apps on the tablet, like editing raw images on Adobe Lightroom, using Adobe Photoshop, and yes, there were no issues at all. And since I'm a video content creator, I decided to finally try Luma Fusion on the tablet, since Adobe Rush is almost like Adobe Premiere, which is crappy. And I have to say that although that is not a software like Final Cut Pro 10, but LumaFusion does seem pretty close, and it is surely way better than any other iPad video editing apps. Okay, so now I'm gonna be a Gerald undone for a minute and give you some of my deep testing results, so hear me out. So in terms of the file formats, besides being able to edit video footages directly from the iPhone, including HDR video, I also tried importing 4K H.264 footage at 120 frames per second on the A7S III, and playback was extremely smooth as butter, which was really mind-blowing because the file size was a massive 3.2 gigabytes. So this means that I can shoot videos on the Sony A7S III, transfer it via AirDrop or even through the external SSD, since the iPad comes with a Thunderbolt 4 port. Then since LumaFusion cannot really recognize a 6K ProRes file, I tried the Blackmagic 6K resolution footage on a H.264 codec, and it also played extremely smoothly. So with this, if you're one of those people who said how the iPad Pro was overkill and there are many limitations on the apps available, well, go and give those a try, especially for an app like LumaFusion and other apps, and come back here and let's discuss. Okay? So since we are talking about using the tablet on a day-to-day basis, let's talk about the accessories that complement the iPad Pro. Firstly, as seen in this video, I have the Magic Keyboard, which at first I was not very used to the folding since it's my very first time using it, and it's a bit more solid compared to most other soft cases on the tablet. And because it was really solid, it gave that sort of floating effect, which was brilliant for situations where I just have to place it on my lap and also type when it comes to watching videos or even writing my script. And the fact that it was totally off the lap, it was a totally different experience than having a laptop on your lap, where a laptop could typically get very warm during a very long use, and that was not the case when using the Magic Keyboard. And also worth mentioning is the fact that the trackpad and also using the overall keyboard was really great when it comes to multitasking and the swipe gestures as well. And the second accessory that I got is the second generation Apple Pencil. Where to be honest, I've been using this more than I thought, but not really for drawing, but I use it for very accurate adjustments both on Adobe programs, LumaFusion, writing notes, and believe it or not, during navigating as well, to kind of get my fingerprints off the screen. So all in all, in my humble opinion, if you really want to get a proper experience with the iPad Pro to the fullest, then you should really consider these two accessories. So if you guys are enjoying this video so far, a nice big thumbs up would be very much appreciated, and subscribe to Adam Lobo TV if you guys haven't done so. Now looking at the tablet's battery, as mentioned in my first impressions, during the presentation, Apple claims that this Wi-Fi and cellular model iPad Pro can last up to 9 hours of playback. So obviously I did not use it just for playing videos, since I use it for everything that I've mentioned, and also some gaming as well. I got a total of even a higher average of 10 hours plus of screen on time when I was at 13% battery. And to me, this is surely a huge plus considering the fact that how huge and bright the overall screen is. Then when it comes to gaming, obviously due to the fact that this is a tablet that not only has the extremely powerful M1 chipset, but also a 16GB of RAM, the games ran smoothly with maximum settings with all the heavy mobile games being played. And since the iPad Pro is compatible with the PS5's DualSense controller, where you'll need to simply set the controller to pairing mode and test it and being able to play it on the iPad, and I got to play some retro games like Sonic the Hedgehog and even some newer games like Asphalt 9 and COD Mobile to give you that proper gaming experience on the tablet, especially with no latency between the controller and the gameplay at all. So in conclusion, what do I really think of the 2021 M1 iPad Pro? Well, here's the thing. Having tested and reviewed many tablets before, where compared to the iPad Pro, where as I mentioned that this is my very first iPad, because every single year I've been holding my purchase because of its price factor. However, I would say that my biggest regret is that I wish that I got my hands on the iPad or even experienced iPad OS sooner, but then again, it is probably the best since the M1 has just been recently introduced in the iPad Pro, which made me feel how amazing it was for my experience on the tablet, And no, it is definitely not an overkill as some would say. And while the iPad is always known to be the king of tablets, now with the M1 chip inside of the iPad, it has made the tablet become light years ahead compared to any other tablet out right now. Alright, now let's end the video by answering all of your questions that you've asked me in my first impressions video. First, we have a question from Libo Joseph. I have a question, can I use it instead of using a laptop? Is it ready to replace a laptop? That is totally up to you in terms of your usage. At this point in time, I personally think that you can. Does Genshin Impact gets hot, and what about the frame rate? So based on the gameplay on Genshin Impact, there was not a point in time where the gameplay felt like it was slowing down, jittery, and there was absolutely no drop of frames. The motion blur was just second to none, where this was hands down the best experience that I had on Genshin Impact, especially when it comes to the motion blur. So that was really great. And the next question comes from Cool Killer Max. Hey Adam, you never mentioned that it has 5G network or not. Okay, it has. I mentioned in my first impressions. Calm down. Don't kill me. Now Farid Abdullah asked, why not you show us what the iPad M1 can do compared to the MacBook Pro, since it has the same hardware compared to the current generation MacBook Pro. In a nutshell, you can do almost everything. The only thing that I feel is not there is Final Cut Pro 10, which you have LumaFusion for that. So there's no such limitation if you ask me. If anything else, the iPad Pro has a touchscreen, right? So isn't that a better option at this point in time? Harvinder Singh then asked that whether or not the iPad Pro is an overkill when it comes to just browsing, watching videos and reading books, etc. Well, the good news is that the iPad Pro not only comes with a 12.9 inch but also the 11 inch. So if you feel like this is just too much for you, especially when it comes to the price factor, then go with the 11 inch instead. Then I have two comments. First coming from Faiz Zul. He said edit a video on iPad Pro. Jonathan Morrison did that. And we have Mike Casper who asked to use the M1 iPad Pro to edit one of my videos. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
Alright guys, that's all for my video. Hope you found it helpful in making your purchase decision of the brand new iPad Pro 12.9 inch. My name is Adam Lobo and I'll catch you guys in my next video.